channel. My name is Alex, and in today's video we're going to be installing this and this into my brother's 2012 Volkswagen EOS. Hey guys, so as I said, we're going to be installing the CarPlay unit and the swivel rear backup camera in this 2012 Volkswagen EOS. And to do that, we're just laying out kind of where the wires are going to go. But really, the improvement is going to come in here. So this is the original factory unit on the Mk6. Any of you guys that have a Mk6 probably have something very similar to this if you have a screen. This is a cool screen and it does a lot of, good things for 2012, but we're really going to modernize this with the CarPlay unit. Right now we're just laying everything out and getting everything ready. What this install is gonna entail is we're obviously gonna have to pull off the screen. We're gonna have to run all of the wiring through behind the dash, underneath, down through the floor, up through here, and then up into the trunk this way. Now one really unique thing about the Volkswagen EOS is that the trunk is bi-directional. So when it opens, the trunk opens this way. When the roof opens, the trunk opens this way. And obviously, you can also open it this way. So that means that the wiring situation is quite tricky. As we can see here, the wire goes through the middle of this kind of bending focal point. So we're gonna have to be really careful to make sure that the wires are ran properly so that there's no damage to the camera wiring or anything like that. The coolest thing about the swivel cameras on the Mk6 cars is that on this car it's actually a trunk handle. There's nowhere to open the trunk on the car, but the camera is actually hidden inside. So it's very difficult to tell right now because it's hidden, but when you put the car in reverse, this thing will pop out, the camera will pop out, you'll see the rear view. And then you put it in drive, it closes, and then when you park, whenever you open it, the camera will be hidden. So a really good idea by Volkswagen, and one that also keeps the camera clean, which is really, really cool. And guys, like with any aftermarket CarPlay or screen situation that includes a backup camera, it's always best practice to not take everything apart and install the whole thing. We first want to make sure that everything works. So the plan for this is we're actually gonna just replace the screen in the dash, turn it on, make sure first of all that this works, and then connect the camera to the unit and make sure it works. And if everything works, then we're gonna take everything apart and actually install it for good. But you're really protecting yourself here because tearing the whole car apart to run wires only to find out that it doesn't work is always a headache. So we're gonna take this precaution, and I urge you guys to do the same thing. All right guys, so to do this, pretty simple. There's tons of videos to do it. We're first gonna take a pry tool and just kind of pull off this faceplate nice and gently. Just go all the way around. And here are what the clips look like on the back. Frequently these metal pieces break off, but just keep an eye out for that, especially if you're taking this off and putting this on often. So after that, it's pretty simple. You have 4 T15 Torx bolts that hold this unit in place. So we're gonna go ahead and remove these. And now we're ready to pull it out. Just like that. To disconnect this bulk connector, you actually have to push this lever down and it'll slide out like this. That's good. And then to pull these guys out, you just have to pull the tabs out, push on them, and they'll come out. And same thing for this one on the bottom. And sometimes they're not very easy. Okay. And that's the back of the original unit. As you can tell, this is a whole big box that takes up the entire space back there. Alright, so just for fun, this is the new unit. You can tell that it's a single DIN. It's not the whole box as the original one was. But in theory, we should just be able to plug in what we have, and that should be good. The kit comes with this adapter. This is for the antenna. So we're just going to plug that in. And we're going to go ahead and attach our quad lock connector, they call it. Just like that. So, let's see what happens when we turn on the car. And again, guys, this is before anything else is connected, before the camera's connected. Let's see what she does. Alright, so we have some life. What's really cool about this unit actually is it's a very factory look and feel to this. We have Bluetooth, we have languages. So just for fun, let's connect my phone and see if the CarPlay works. So Android Auto is working. Nice. Sweet. CarPlay and Android Auto work. Let's check, make sure everything is working. Cool. Alright, so the unit is working, so that's great. So, now that the unit is working, that means we can proceed. So that was the first check. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna connect all of the camera equipment. We also have this really cool USB socket thing that's gonna go into one of these blank spots, and that'll be a really nice OEM look. So we're gonna have to run the cable back through there, install it in one of these spots, and it'll look nice and factory. But so far so good. So now that we've verified that the unit is working, let's go ahead and route this USB cable where it needs to go, because that's the only thing that needs to be done. So to do that, we're just gonna pop up this gear selector cover, and underneath there is a plug right here, and I'll show you when I pull it out. Just like that. So make sure to find this little ear and push it down, and that'll release that. So we don't want to be yanking on it. We're gonna go ahead, here's a little trick. To move this gear selector without the key in, we can push down this yellow tab right there. Push that down. That allows us to pull the gear selector back. And then there's two T15 Torx screws. One and two. And then there's also a cover right here. Just like that. And this will allow us, or should allow us, to pull this up and move it on out of the way. So once again, we have some connectors here. Just like that gear selector one, we have to pull that one down. Sometimes it helps just to use a pry tool, just like that. And then if you look at the cigarette lighter one, there's a tab right there that we have to push down, and that should come out like that. And then also we have a little keeper right here for the wire. We just have to kind of pull that one out, and now we're free. Now that that's done, we just have to
pull this out and fish this wire down. And it's difficult to see, but there is a pass-through back there. Just like that. And then we can disconnect this connector right here to unlodge or dislodge this one. Again, sometimes a little help is needed. Just like that. Because this button has a rounded corners, that means it has to go on the end here. So to do that, we're just gonna squeeze these two together and it pops out just like that. And we're gonna take our USB connection and install it right in there. And that looks really nice and factory. You can flip that up. If you're holding some coffee, you can protect this socket just like that. So now we can go ahead and install this back and connect all of our connections. That plug right there. So just install it back the way it was and install back our screws. Remember that these ones are going into plastic, so they do not require compression. Alright guys, so the first step of this process is to remove, on the Volkswagen EOS, is to remove this trunk liner. That's pretty simple actually. You'll see a bunch of these clips that they go all around. It's really crappy because there's a little hex bolt in there and these are plastic, and so the one that I used is a size 3 that'll fit in there to unscrew these. But since these are plastic, the hex key is very easily marred, so I had to step up and get a little bit of larger one and then use some pliers to help me turn those out. But you'll see a couple of them along the bottom, a couple up here, and then one on each side. And then there's also a T20 Torx that's inside the grab handles that's right about here. So once you remove that, then really the biggest issue is removing that handle. And to do that, once you remove all of those clips, the panel will come down, but it'll still be attached with that emergency escape latch. And so this guy lives kind of like this, so you have to pull this plastic piece off and then you have to guide the little cable out of that hole right there. So once you do that, then that's free. And now we are looking underneath here at the factory latch assembly, just kind of getting an idea of what is going to go where and how we're going to route the wires. So just based on looking at this right now, the camera is going to be right here, and we can see that the bulk of the wiring is going this way. So it's going through here, and then it's going behind this panel right here that actually just pops out like that. And so I think it'll be the best move to actually run the cable along this side. And then by running it along this side, we're going to run it in there and then along the floor. So that's where we are right now. Let's go ahead and get ready to pull this factory rear latch assembly off. Well guys, we've been making some progress over here on the EOS with the backup camera install and the CarPlay unit install. So what we did is we started off here in the back with the camera situation. We figured to start off in the back to do the camera, and the issue that we encountered were these two bottom mounting screws for the camera module had been stripped out. So we've epoxied them, they're curing right now, but we were able to mount the camera here while we ran the wires.
And so if we take a look at the wires, we positioned the camera correctly, and then we ran the wires from the camera back. So you could see we followed the factory wiring path. Because this is a trick convertible system, the wires go all sorts of ways. So then we went down per the factory and then attached to the main body harness that goes through that hole over there. So if we come across over here, we have to take out the rear seats and this rear side panel to be able to run the wires correctly. And then we're following the main body harness up behind the carpet. So we ran the wires down here, and then of the two sets of wires, these are the only ones that are going to the fuse box area and ground, and then the rest are going to the CarPlay unit. So you can see, in order to run the wires properly to the CarPlay unit, we took out the cluster. And to take out the cluster is pretty simple. You just lift up this cover, and you have the two screws right there. Lift it up, make sure to get the alligator clamp back behind the cluster, and then ran it over there. So far that's where we are. So another issue that we discovered is these are actually coming from the camera in the back. You can see this blue block right here is going to the CarPlay unit. The problem though is there's already a blue block there with wires going up to it. So if we disconnect that, then we could lose some functionality. I'm not exactly sure which functions these wires do. What we're gonna do is we're actually gonna de-pin these two wires from this block and plug them into that block. And then that way it's all factory and proper. All right guys, so we have everything connected. The bolt holes are cured. The camera is sitting up there nicely. Take a look. There it is. We have the wires connected, just like I showed you before. And what we've done right now is, this is just a temporary test. We've grounded the wires. The ground that I used is right over there. And then we ran wires from behind the gauge cluster back into here. And then in here, that little blue block, that we had, I de-pinned those and put them in their appropriate spots in the blue block from the car. And then ran back the power and ground in the kit to here, grounded those. And I just picked some fuses over here. We'll see. We're about to see if this works. And then we just connected the CAN high and CAN low connectors. I'm not a huge fan of these, but for the time being, we'll run it and just hope that it gives us the dynamic reversing steering wheel angle stuff. So all that we have left to do is to install the unit, hook it up, and see what it does. So actually, if you're gonna install this without the camera, this is the easiest thing. Literally, you just take the factory quad lock, you plug it in, and it's a 10-minute job maybe. The rear camera, of course, is a much more in-depth process, but it really is worth it. So we're about to see if this works. Just swing the arm out and make sure everything is going back in nicely. Alright, so everything's connected. We'll turn on the ignition and let's see what happens when we put it in reverse.
Explain.
Alright. Yeah. Get ready? Alright guys, so it looks like we figured it out. The camera is working, if you guys can see it, I'm not sure. And actually the camera is a pretty good quality picture. Can you stand right there? As you can see,
The steering wheel is responding with that CAN bus connection. Oh nice, he's dancing. And it looks like everything is working. So the issue was, again, the camera turned on, but the motor, the badge did not flip up. So that told me that that was a power issue. And in our troubleshooting, we just picked the top 2 slots on this fuse box there, and that seemed to have done the trick. It looks like the system is working nicely. Pretty in-depth install, but nothing that the average kind of dedicated person can't tackle. We're gonna put the whole car back together and ensure that it's working nicely. But so far, this is a really good feature that this car was really lacking. That, and of course CarPlay, but the CarPlay unit was a very easy job.
Well guys, that was a little bit of an install video on doing the rear view camera on this Volkswagen EOS. Also good video for Mk6, Golfs, Beetles, all with the same setup, and even probably the Jetta Sport Wagons too that have the camera in the back. I know I didn't cover all of the specific details, but I think there's plenty of videos out there for you guys to see. I'm just another person that's telling you that this kit is worth buying. Link it down below. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you next time.